Hello guys, welcome back to a brand new video. My name is DHL, and as most of you have noticed, I'm using a brand new format of redoing my YouTube videos. So after this, I'm going to share with you some news and of course go into the main topic of today, which is the top 5 tips of producing trap music in Logic Pro X. However, the tips can be used in anywhere of course other than Logic Pro X, like Ableton, GarageBand, and etc. I'm going to revamp this channel by using a different way of filming YouTube videos. As you can see right here, I'm using the camera right here. So I realized that talking to you guys and recording the script beforehand is a bit unnatural. I sound weird, I do not sound like myself. Right, so today we will be talking about the top 5 tips of producing trap music in Logic Pro X. And as some of you have known, and you keep up to the stuff that I do, most of the tracks that I produce are like future bass trap. Anyway, so without further ado, let's get right into number 5. It will be to set up a draft beat track. So what a draft beat track means, right, is that you have a project set to 140 BPM over here. It's set to 140 BPM, and then you have all the elements in trap like your drums, your hi-hats, 808s and crashes, etc. What this does, right, is that when after you're done making your beat, you are able to process the information faster, you're able to think of ideas faster, because maybe the groove and the vibe of that certain beat track will give you inspiration on what type of. It allows you to speed up your producing progress by a lot, because the ideas will flow through your mind even quickly and more effectively. So this is number 5. Coming at number 4, my tip would be to label and organize my tracks accordingly. So what this means is that, okay, just look at the project over here. I have like drums, I have the kick, I have the snare, I have the hi-hats. These are 3 main things that I always put. So what I will do, right, is that I'll click on all of them, and I'll do a right click and put them into a summing track. As you can see here, create track stack and then put summing track. So what this allows you to do, right, is that it organizes your elements properly, because in major projects, if you get really messed up, like you have your drums up here and then suddenly your A is down there, like it's just messed up, it'll be very hard for you to gauge and to loop them and to actually manage your entire project file, because you eventually get confused. You need to find your element, you need to find your whatever sound, and then you just get lost in the project. Yeah, so that is very important in drafting out your projects. So imagine if you just accidentally copy out a crash in the project, and it just gets so spastic. So imagine if you're just looking through an entire messy track, like the drums here, every leads everywhere, and then you just can't find that certain crash that sounds out of place. So what this does, right, is that it allows you to clear out your things faster and allows your brain to just, your workflow just improves. Anyways, not only that, right, but it also can make it easier for your CPU. So if you put them in a summing track, it will be easier for you to send each element into buses. So what a bus is basically you're sending the instrument to buses, and this bus, you add a certain plugin to it. You send your sound to a bus, and if you add reverb, then every sound which is inside the bus itself will have the same reverb. So this will allow your CPU to ease by a lot, and you will not mess up the RAM, because if your Mac has 4 GB RAM, you surely kill your comp, because that's happened to me so many times. So organize your files, and then this will make your life so much easier. After that, coming at number 3, it will be to use the Space Designer. So Space Designer is super useful, even though people say that Logic plugins are cheap, they are crap. However, in fact, Space Designer is one of the best stock plugins in Logic. Some plugins are quite good, like the compressor, the Space Designer, some reverb stuff, and etc. and whatsoever. So what a Space Designer does is basically a reverb machine. So if you add reverb into certain elements in your track, it allows you to blend that instrument to your mix very well. So what I'll mostly do is that whenever I have a snare in any track, I'll add a 0.4 snare chamber to the snare, and this is what this does, right? It gives it a very big space, so it makes it very wide, and it's like that reverby effect, so it makes your mix wider. However, you must also make sure that you need to take note of the instruments that need to be mono or stereo, because that will affect your track by a lot. So another thing with Space Designer is that sometimes it can produce too much white noise. So actually do not just spam Space Designer to everything and then listening everything at once, because you have to listen to your Space Designer for every track and then see whether white noise outplays. So number 2 is not to say like production tip, but it's more psychological, and that would be to actually take your time to draft a track. So nobody can draft a track in a day, so take your time to draft and pour in as much creativity as possible, unless you have a creative block at that certain point of time. So what I'll sometimes do, right, is that when I'm stuck in the middle of producing and not knowing what to do, I'll just stop producing, quit the project, and just start listening to other genre songs, like, I don't know, chill pop whatsoever. So this allows my brain to clear, my ears to rest a bit. So eventually you actually find elements inside the whatever genre track that might find that you find it useful in putting into your own track. So like the next day when you're refreshed, your ears are awake, you can just go back to your project and continue working on it, and maybe you'll be able to work faster as compared to the day before. And finally, coming up at number 1, this is not really a track bias tip, but it's still a tip for producing track. And what it is to actually implement movements into your track. So never be afraid to get creative and make sounds move everywhere, because it's all about creativity and letting your feelings be expressed through music, because that's what everybody says, right? So you can just spam your noise gate, you just like link it to there, spam your tremolo to your hi-hats, and adding movements. What this will do is that will keep your listeners intrigued to stay and listen till the end of the song. Eventually, after practicing for a very long time, it will come to a point where it becomes your style lah. Like Porter Robinson, he has this very special vibe to his songs, so now he's quite famous, like after releasing Shelter. So like in a sense, adding movements to your track is very important, because currently a lot of new producers who are producing tracks find that their songs aren't very captivating, not because they don't have the right sounds, they don't have the right drums or samples, etc., but it's more of the movements. So in a sense, number 1 is related to number 5, because you have your movements, and the movements is supported because of the elements. Number 5, which is adding elements to your tracks. Yeah. So these are some of the tips which I like to implement when I produce tracks. So like, I'm not a guy who can produce a track very fast. Some tracks take me like months to finish, or some just takes me a few days. However, they might not be as good. So anyways, all of you shouldn't really like follow all of the things that I said, because all of the tips that I suggested, because you guys have your own style of producing your tracks. So these are my ways of producing my track, my own workflow, and I'm just sharing with you how I like to work on my projects. So anyways, if any of you have your own tips of producing any EDM tracks, do feel free to share below, right down in the link. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned a bit of stuff from it. I hope so, you learned a bit. Anyways, do drop a like, subscribe, and share to anybody who are still trying to make their music production journey work out.